Imagine someone offers you a bag filled with pure gold. Then they place a bag of ordinary salt beside it. You can take only one before walking away forever. Which one would you choose? Today, almost everyone would choose the gold. The answer feels completely obvious. Gold can buy almost anything. Salt costs almost nothing. We use it almost every single day. Most people never think about it. But thousands of years ago, people often made the opposite choice. In some places, salt was worth more than gold. That sounds almost impossible today. Gold shines beautifully in the sunlight. Gold became a symbol of wealth and power. Salt looks like ordinary white crystals. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't look valuable. Yet entire civilizations depended on it. Kings protected salt mines with their armies. Merchants crossed dangerous deserts to carry it. Governments collected taxes on it. Some workers were even paid with salt. Entire wars were fought because of it. So what made salt so valuable? The answer wasn't beauty. It wasn't rarity either. It was survival. To understand why, we need to travel back in time. Imagine a world without electricity. A world without refrigerators. A world without supermarkets. A world without freezers. Fresh meat spoiled within days. Fish spoiled even faster. Milk didn't stay fresh for long. Every meal had an expiration date. Hunger was never far away. Every family faced the same problem. How do you keep food from spoiling? Hunting every day wasn't possible. Farming could fail without warning. A single bad season could destroy everything. One long winter could become a disaster. Food wasn't just difficult to find. It was even harder to preserve. Then, people discovered something extraordinary. Salt could keep food fresh for months. And that discovery changed human history forever. Salt did something that gold never could. It gave people more time. That may not sound very impressive today. Thousands of years ago, it meant everything. Fresh meat quickly became unsafe to eat. Harmful bacteria multiplied every single hour. Soon, the food became useless. Throwing it away meant losing days of hard work. Sometimes it meant losing the only meal a family had. Salt changed that completely. It pulled water out of the food. Bacteria need water to survive. Without enough water, they stopped growing. Food lasted much longer. Sometimes it stayed edible for months. That simple discovery changed everyday life. Hunters no longer wasted most of their catch. Fishermen could travel much farther from shore. Farmers could store food after harvest. Families could prepare for winter. Villages became more secure. Fewer people starved during difficult seasons. Salt quietly became one of humanity's greatest inventions. It protected food without using fire. It worked without electricity. It worked almost everywhere. Suddenly, food could travel long distances. Traders carried salted meat across entire regions. Ships crossed dangerous oceans with preserved food. Long journeys became much more possible. Large armies could stay away from home. They carried salted food with them. That changed warfare forever. Entire kingdoms depended on reliable food supplies. An army without food could never win. Salt helped keep those armies alive. It became as important as swords and shields. Cities also depended on it. Large populations needed stable food supplies. Without preservation, cities couldn't continue growing. Salt solved a problem that threatened everyone. Rich or poor, everyone needed it. No one could simply live without salt. Gold made people wealthy. Salt helped keep them alive. As the demand for salt grew, another problem appeared. Salt wasn't available everywhere. Some regions had plenty of it. Others had almost none. People had to travel great distances to find it. Some crossed scorching deserts. Others climbed dangerous mountains. Many followed long rivers. Every journey carried enormous risks. Bandits often waited along the roads. Storms could destroy entire caravans. Some traders never returned home. Yet people kept making those journeys because salt was worth the risk. Trade routes slowly connected distant civilizations. Salt became one of the world's first global commodities. Entire towns grew around salt mines. New markets appeared wherever salt was sold. Wealth followed the trade. Kings quickly realized its value. They wanted to control every major source. Whoever controlled the salt controlled the trade. Whoever controlled the trade gained enormous power. Governments began taxing salt. Every sale brought money to the rulers. Some taxes became incredibly high. People still had no choice but to pay. They couldn't simply stop using salt. It wasn't a luxury. It was a necessity. Some rulers became rich from salt alone. Others fought wars to capture salt mines. Entire armies marched to protect them. A single mine could supply thousands of people. Losing one could weaken an entire kingdom. Salt became part of politics. It became part of economics. A simple white crystal helped shape the modern world. And its story was far from over, because one important question still remains. If salt was so valuable, why did it lose that value? And why did gold eventually take its place? The answer began with human progress. People discovered new sources of salt. More mines were opened. Better roads connected distant cities. Ships carry larger amounts than ever before. Salt became easier to transport. It also became much cheaper. Then, another invention changed everything. The refrigerator. For the first time, food could stay fresh without salt. Meat no longer spoiled so quickly. Fish could be kept on ice. Families no longer depended on salt every day. Its greatest advantage slowly disappeared. Salt didn't become less useful. It simply became easy to get. And that changed its value forever. Gold followed a very different path. It was still rare. It was still difficult to find. It never lost its beauty. It never rusted. It was easy to divide and carry. People continued trusting it. That trust grew stronger over time. Gold became a symbol of wealth. Salt became an ordinary product. Yet nothing about salt had really changed. The crystals looked exactly the same. They still preserved food. They still kept people alive. The only thing that changed was the world around them. Modern technology solved the problem that salt once solved. That's why we rarely think about it today. We simply expect it to be there. Every store has shelves full of it. Every restaurant places it on the table. Most people never wonder how important it once was. But history remembers. Entire civilizations were built around salt. Trade routes carried it across continents. Kingdoms fought to control it. Millions of lives depended on it. Gold made people rich. Salt made civilization possible. And perhaps that's the biggest difference. One created wealth. The other protected life. That's why, for much of history, salt truly was more valuable than gold. Today, gold is worth far more than salt. That makes perfect sense in the modern world. But history tells a very different story. There was a time when gold couldn't solve the biggest problem people faced. It couldn't stop food from spoiling. It couldn't help families survive the winter. It couldn't feed an army on a long march. It couldn't save a city during a famine. Salt could. That's why people crossed deserts to find it. That's why kings fought to control it. That's why merchants risked their lives carrying it. And that's why entire civilizations depended on it. Today, we barely notice it on our tables. We sprinkle it onto our food without a second thought. Something that once shaped empires now sits inside a simple kitchen shaker. Its appearance never changed. Only our world changed around it. And perhaps that's the most surprising lesson of all. The most valuable things aren't always the ones that shine. Sometimes they're the ones that quietly keep us alive. Salt never became famous because it was beautiful. It became valuable because people couldn't live without it. Gold represented wealth. Salt represented survival. And for thousands of years, survival mattered far more than wealth. That's why, in much of the ancient world, salt was more valuable than gold. And perhaps the greatest treasures in history were never the ones that glittered.